Good morning. We have a really great episode for you today. The information is already late and out of date, and we can see the technical analysis before this breakout, and it is really helpful. Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2019. In today's episode, we're going to explore the possibility that today's prices may be in a similar position to this price right here, and that we may get a very strong but limited bounce up in the prices. That's what we'll check out in our indicators on today's episode of the 24 Hours of Bitcoin. Let's start off with some of the basics in the chart before we look at the indicators. First of all, of course, we're in a downtrend and we are just recovering from some big exhaustion wicks. We have a larger 1, 2, 3 top formation right here, which is turned into an even larger 1, 2, 3 top formation right here that we are below right now. And so I am looking for structure to come up underneath these and give us a top formation for further downside. And I'm also anticipating that we're probably going to be into 8 months to a year of choppy sideways market from $5,800 and slowly working our way back up underneath the 10,000 in a long term. And go to the logarithmic chart. Then we're getting to where I can draw in the long-term trend line right off of these levels, and we are right almost at it now. And so this is our year of chop, edging all the way along this before we go up and off of it in a massive ascending wedge triangle of God, which is going to take us up from the parabolic move past the point of inflection and up the anti-parabola on the other side of about $70,000. Now, let's jump into the charts for today. I'll go back to the log view and I'm going to bring up the relative strength index because that long-term view aside, we still have to deal with today. And today I'm looking for the relative strength index is really mimicking what we did on this bounce right here. So we'll go into the details now and see how much these 2 points compare. Let's go into the 1 day time frame and drag it back. So we're looking at a divergence here, a positive divergence right off of this setup. Kind of similar. We have kind of not as strong a divergence right here, but actually because it is a hidden divergence, it may be even stronger. Can you see the hidden divergence? This is a real divergence. Prices are level, RSI is up. RSI is level, prices are down. Hidden divergence. Let's see how this manifests off of this edge now. Zoom into the 3-month time frame, and I'm gonna one more time pull it back, then it gets to be a pain in the butt. And so we're watching for RSI to stage up and then break past the mid-level. Stage up and then break past the mid-level. So it made a 1, 2, 3 formation in here that took a little bit of time. You can see the bottom retest again, and then it blasted. So are we going to get that many retests now? Well, when it did retest, we could see that the RSI gave us the divergence all the way along before it broke higher. So that's what we're looking for, and that's what we've got right now actually, is that RSI divergence, much like we had here, but in a stronger time frame. This RSI divergence off of a parallel price level and a bottom formation is key. All right, let's zoom into the 4-hour time frame. The divergence is still here, but the bears are saying, this is still the pissing off the roof formation. A phrase that I've stole directly from Crypto Sniper, that pissing off the roof formation. Anyway, let's continue on and see what the other indicators are telling us, because it gets less clear to me in the shorter time frame. But it is giving us the positive divergence right off of this moment. So I bet as we get in closer time frames, we'll see that this is building us a tiny 1, 2, 3. So this would be the number 1 point here, the lowest of this little trend. It's come up, and as it breaks above this level, that would be confirming our 1, 2, 3 reversal on this time frame, which is a number 3 point of the larger 1, 2, 3 that we've seen forming up. And that would be a verified springboard trade entry right there. Super small. If you appreciate that there are no ads on this channel, hit the thumbs up button. If you're back for a second episode, hit the subscribe button. And if you think this research can help you make more money and change your approach to investing with cryptocurrencies, be sure to become one of our early Patreon supporters and lock in this valuable research for your own trading. The next indicator and see what the volume is doing. Actually, through this period here, we had a lot more selling volume than we do now. This was a lot more bearish. 12-hour time frame. Now I'm just zooming in on this to see the nature of the dumping going on here. I do want to see dumping and less dumping here. If they can't get the juice on and the bears can't break it, this is what will show us, especially as we're breaking above this tiny little 1, 2, 3 in here. Let's continue to zoom in on that. 1 hour, 15 minute. Okay, again, dumping, less dumping. That would be confirming this tiny little 1, 2, 3. And we'll watch this manifest now. Let's zoom out to the weekly. What was it doing here? Indeed, the weekly was not happy at this time. It was still falling. But right away, we did start to see that the weekly started to move up on the histograms here. Then it didn't pass zero, but peaked and continued down. Look at this. It didn't cross. So this is what we're watching for up along this top. If we don't get the cross, we're coming back down. Oh yeah. Let's zoom into the daily. This is still negative, but the histograms are starting to pull back a little bit each day. Going to the 12-hour time frame, and yesterday I was like, wow, this crossed. I couldn't believe it. The histogram has pulled back up. It is still, we're getting exhaustion candles to the downside right there right now. I like it. And with a cross on the 12-hour, that's pretty juicy. That's reversal stuff. So we do have this reversal still holding steady, and it will break and slide further if this starts to cross, and we are breaking below those levels, of course. Right, then these reversals are not mature enough, and we'll see what happens. This needs to pick itself up and cross back to the positive. And the more that it stays negative and negative, the more that this continues to be the pissing off the roof formation. It's really right down to a very small risk to reward ratio in this right now. You know, a couple $100 right there. And in 5 years, to say a couple $100 change in Bitcoin price is going to be madness, because it'll be having the market cap to hold itself steady. Let's zoom in. Okay, now it's the next indicator. The weekly Ichimoku, which has done some pretty amazing predictive details from our top right down to these levels here. We can see these levels. They've been stable and level all the way along for a long time, and prices came back and touched that. Now let's see what goes on with the closer time frames, because that's just amazing to me. Actually, I'm still learning from this. And let's see if this can be our reversal spot. And what we're going to look for is any kind of bullish turnarounds now. And in the daily, I'm not seeing it, not yet. Let's go to the 12-hour and drag this back. Not yet, I'm not seeing it. This has got a lot of work to do before this turns around for any trend. Let's go into the 4-hour. Hey, there we go. There's the first of it right there. That cross of the blue above the red is the first indication. So we have the 1, 2, potential number 3 out of this super crazy short time frame. And the 4 hours actually is pretty good. And then we're having a tiny little 1, 2, 3 right in this reversal spot here. So let's see how this shapes up. But coming up into this cloud on the 4-hour or on the 12-hour time frame, let me drag this back, is the sell signal that we're looking for. If I go back out to the 1-year view, and what were we like back in that spot? All right, so we were in a very similar spot over here where it was still negative. Everything was still negative at this point. The blue was still below the red. The trailing indicator was still behind and not cut through everything. We were below the cloud. The cloud was twisted red. Everything was bearish as we are now. And I would have been looking for the sell signal in the downtrend right out of this. So we're watching for it to prove us wrong, actually, out of the 12-hour time frame if we're going to get that kind of bounce. Now back to our current 12-hour time frame. Let's see how this plays out. That's very interesting to be mapping this out and comparing those two. Here we are at the 4 hour. When we zoom into the 1 hour, it was giving us the first indications of good stuff, but then it's pulled itself back, so it's got to work its way back above these levels. The 15-minute time frame is still bearish. It's not giving us any kind of reversal. And the 5-minute Ichimoku is also bearish. It's not giving us any reversal. So everything that I'm shopping for the reversal has nothing to do with the Ichimoku, and I really am glad to be documenting that. Now let's quickly go through the Bollinger Bands. On the weekly view, we're still definitely bearish and below the midline, and I'll stay bearish till we're above that midline. I'm observing now what is the price doing against the bottom of the band on the daily, and then observing what's going on with the 12 hour as it's moving away from the band and making our potential 1, 2, 3. The 4 hour has crossed above, back below the midline, so I'm waiting for it to cross and build something above the midline. And then I'm observing what's going on with the 1 hour Bollinger Band as this larger potential 1, 2, 3 is shaping up. So we'll just observe this over the days, and if you have any information about Bollinger Bands, leave those in the comments below. I would be interested to get some perspective on what I'm looking at here, because it's still not making much sense to me, except that as we get into these closer time frames and I combine it with the 1, 2, 3 formation, this does look like we're building up to a big move like we were yesterday. It was building up to a bigger move, and we got a big quick move down the downside. Now it's tightening up, and we could get a quick shot up to the upside. And so while I am kind of looking for a bounce to bounce up from here, just looking at the RSI and the MACD, when we take a look at the longs versus the shorts, it kind of throws a wet blanket on my party. With the longs going up as high as they are, I'm not anticipating that they are going to be correct. And so it makes me feel like we're going to get another push down deep and fast before we get that sharp bounce up. And it will punish these longs big time. The curious thing to me is that the shorts have not been picking up as we've been coming down through this area. I don't know, we'll continue to observe this. When I go into Bitcoin dominance, it's also giving us a whole bunch of keep waiting, but it is getting more volatile as we've had some coins doing some really big gains and then pulling back. You can see it's really affecting Bitcoin dominance overall. And if you've been overly focused on just trading Bitcoin and you haven't diversified out into other markets yet, be sure to be paying attention to the alts right now. As you know, we go over the bull market watch on a daily basis, and we're monitoring the bullishness and the bearishness of the markets overall. You can get access to this spreadsheet so you can see exactly which coins you should be holding in your portfolio. It is very inexpensive and powerful. And so we can close by reviewing the relative strength index for these two different time frames, and we can see the similarity in the relative strength index divergence right off of this time period. When we go into the on-balance volume, we can see that last time there was a lot more selling volume than we're seeing right now. So we could be in a turnaround stage of a longer uptrend for sure. When we go into the MACD indicator on the daily time frame, then you can see that we're looking for this MACD to cross before we're going to get our breakout. Prices have to go sideways and complete our 1, 2, 3 formation like this, and our MACD cross to the positive on the daily before we're going to get that bump. As we take a look at the Ichimoku Cloud, it is definitely in a bearish stance right now, but so was it at this point in time. You can see that the blue line and the red line were very far apart, which is sort of like the relative strength index oversold, overbought indicator. The further apart the red and the blue line are, the more they want to get back together. And so it is pushing for a reversion as well. If it does, you can see that we made it above the cloud, but that was it. That's all we were able to make as support and resistance, and we'll be really watching those key levels all the way back as prices come up, and we'll be watching for a short sell opportunity there, and anticipating that we're going to be going into 8 months to a year of sideways choppy action. So we're not going to be looking for building on a long-term trend unless we break above the $11,000, $10,000, $11,000 level. Then we'll be looking to add on to any kind of long-term trend, but for now in the middle will be Chop City. Let's go into the Bollinger Bands to wrap things up. As a review, we can see that it did come down to the Bollinger Band, and then it went sideways into the space of the band before crossing through the midline, and we'll be watching for the shorter term time frames on Bollinger Bands to see how this manifests and see how this unfolds. I am super grateful to have you guys along. There are a ton of really great cryptocurrency YouTube videos out there, and I'm honored to have you following along here. If you haven't already, you can make the most of this stream by scrolling to the bottom of the page and put your email address in to get the free webinar that explains the complete trading system that I'm talking about here. It's an ideal starting point for technical analysis for beginners because it's not just a general technical analysis training thing, it is specific to a trading plan that you can follow. You can learn this, you can make money work for you. Thanks again for following. I will see you on the next episode of the 24 Hours of Bitcoin.